So we're going to put it into practice. We have a shiny cylinder here where you'll notice that the light source is coming from the top left as it's creating that cast shadow on the right, the bottom right. We've got the very highlights where it's the lightest part of the cylinder are these areas here. And then we've got the core light, which is hitting above where the light is coming from. We've then got the core shadow, which is almost like the reflection here in the middle. And we've got the core shadow and the cast shadow. So we're going to start by drawing the basic shape. And remember to press lightly on your outline to ensure that if you make any mistakes, you can easily rub it out. And remember that a cylinder, its vertical lines are parallel from one another, and a cylinder on the top, the edges are curved. So we need to make sure that our cylinder at the top is curved. So we need to make sure that we kind of curve our pencil around, pressing lightly, avoiding drawing any sharp edges. And again for the bottom, that curve, although it's slightly smaller, we need to ensure that it follows that same curve at the top. So we're going to do that same thing here at the bottom. And then we've got this line here, which kind of confirms those curved cylinder lines from the top and bottom as well. So make sure that you're happy with your overall shape of the cylinder before we then begin to look at the highlights and shadows. Now what I'm going to do is, before I actually add any sort of tone to my drawing, I'm going to actually lightly mark out my highlights, which is the very lightest parts of my cylinder. And I'm also carefully going to show where the core light is as well. It kind of scoops around the cylinder like so. I'm then going to just carefully mark out the core shadow, just so I've got an idea of where my lightest areas are, my darkest areas are going to go on the cylinder, and my midtones are going to fill in the rest. So I'm going to begin, once I've kind of highlighted all of those areas, start off with my core shadows. So my core shadows on the cylinder are going to be my darkest areas. And I've been using a 2B, but I might actually transfer over to a 4B and using the side of my pencil to apply that tone. And notice, as the cylinder is curved on the edge, I'm curving my pencil to allow my pencil to follow the form of the shape, so then it becomes directional shading, so then it will look a little bit more three-dimensional. And again, I'm kind of pressed slightly darker on that edge there as it's the darkest point. And then I'm going to also apply my core shadow in that middle, that kind of area there where we mentioned that it's the middle area from my cylinder. So I'm going to apply that dark area here And again, try and avoid adding too many gaps in between your shading so you don't see any scribbled marks. I'm just kind of filling in where I can see the most darkest areas of my core shadow, just filling that in there. Once you're happy with the application of the darkest core shadows of the cylinder, I want you to also think to yourself what kind of shapes have been created by that sort of reflection. So it's kind of this sort of curvy area here, this sort of straight sort of area here as well, like so. And once you've kind of got your core shadows, you can begin to kind of add your core light, where it's not your midtones, it's your core light, where you're kind of really trying to apply it lightly as possible with little pressure on your pencil to try and achieve that core light. And again, you can see that I'm curving my pencil to apply directional shading to show the form of the cylinder. Once you're happy with that, you can then start adding your midtones and ensure that your midtones blend through from your light to your dark. So it's really important that you have a graduation between your dark, mid, then to your lights. All that's left to apply now is your cast shadow. So noticing, remember where the light is coming from. So in this scenario, the light is coming from the left. So our cast shadow is created on the bottom right. You can lightly press the outline and then you can slowly add. So then there's this darker element here first of all, which is the initial darkest shadow of the core, and then you can begin to apply your graduated tone to the rest of the shadow. So you can go ahead and apply your cast shadow to your